This is Sonali Kolhatkar reporting for Free Speech TV. Today is day 2 of the Democratic National Convention. I'm standing in the city center of Philadelphia in front of City Hall. This is, of course, where a lot of activity is happening. A lot of the congressional caucuses are meeting. The actual convention is happening at the Wells Fargo Center, quite a ways away from here. The whole convention has been a little bit of a logistical nightmare, but that's because this has been the biggest convention in recent history, and so just the sheer logistics of managing tens of thousands of people is quite a big deal. And that is also part of the story because, of course, so many new voters and activists and young people have been energized by what's happening this election, not just the fear of Donald Trump, but of course being inspired by a candidate like Bernie Sanders. If there's any theme throughout this DNC so far, a day and a half into it, it is that there's a pretty serious fight brewing between the Bernie Sanders delegates and supporters and those supporters of Hillary Clinton. So yesterday, which was day 1 of the convention, started out with a demonstration in front of City Hall right around here where I'm standing. At 3 p.m. there was a March for Our Lives organized by the Poor People's Economic Human Rights Campaign, and that was led by Cornel West and Chris Hedges, Rosa Clemente. There were thousands of people out on the streets, and they were basically, most of them were saying that they refused to vote for Hillary Clinton. I interviewed some of the folks who were marching. A few said they would hold their nose and vote for Clinton because of Trump, but most were in the Sanders camp, I should say. So, and then of course Sanders himself addressed his delegates. You might have heard that there was a lot of booing of Sanders, even towards Sanders himself, which is pretty impressive. A lot of folks who've been inspired by Bernie Sanders are saying, well, he's not in charge of our votes. There was a meeting of Bernie delegates organized by Roots Action, and they are attempting to challenge Hillary Clinton's VP pick of Tim Kaine. That is going to be something that might be unfolding tonight. We'll see what happens. It's a very exciting election. So in the evening then, as the Free Speech TV crew made its way to the Wells Fargo Center to start hearing the speakers, we were met outside the train station by yet thousands more people who were gathered there behind these large barricades, also chanting things like, hell no DNC, we won't vote for Hillary. They were also chanting things like Bernie beats Trump, very clearly implying that in a general election he would be able to beat Donald Trump more easily. A lot of anger. There were people who were arrested, carried away in plastic handcuffs. And then we made our way down to the floor of the DNC. And of course, last night, Bernie Sanders did address the crowd. He mentioned Clinton several times. And to the disappointment of some progressives, he went as far as saying that he believes in Hillary Clinton. Now, of course, Sanders has to say that. Some of his supporters understand that. In a show of attempted unity, the Clinton campaign distributed signs that said, love Trump's hate, which, you know, a lot of people held. Some people defaced them to say, love Bernie, so Trump's hate can't win. So a lot of very interesting and creative subversion of the Democratic Party message. Of course, last night, First Lady Michelle Obama also spoke. Her speech was heralded as perhaps the best speech that might come out of the DNC and that a First Lady has really ever given. And it was a very unifying speech. She never even mentioned Trump by name. Some took issue with the fact that she unfortunately resorted to the standard sort of American exceptionalism rhetoric that we've seen from President Obama and others like him. You know, the United States is the greatest country in the world, etc. But other than that, even a lot of diehard Sanders supporters felt that her message was much more unifying and much more sort of listening to them than the Clinton establishment. And in fact, this morning I interviewed a Bernie millennial, a 22-year-old young man from Southern California, a delegate for Bernie Sanders from Riverside, and you know, he was someone who was not engaged in politics until he found Bernie Sanders' speech. He discovered him last August. He's here at the convention, and he said that Michelle Obama's speech was really the only hint that he and others have had that the Democratic Party is sort of willing to acknowledge the fact that the party has been re-energized because of Sanders, and that they can't take for granted Sanders delegates. I was also at the California delegates meeting where delegates from California cast their votes, and a lot of Bernie Sanders delegates were out there booing at Al Franken, booing at everybody who said, you know, we've got to unite behind Hillary. Many of them angry about her support for the TPP. So there's still a lot of anger. If you walk around the hallways, in elevators, there's just this buzz. I mean, on the one hand, it's really great for our democracy that people are talking. On the other hand, there is a lot of, I think, anger because Americans aren't used to being this engaged in the electoral process. There is a deep skepticism among many of Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the chairwoman of the DNC, who has announced that she's going to step down. And of course, that was the big news that dominated yesterday with the email leak showing the duplicitousness of the Democratic Party establishment and their attempts to sabotage Sanders. A lot of people were upset in the streets and even inside the convention cited those emails. Of course, what did Clinton do? She turned around and appointed Wasserman Schultz as heading one part of her campaign. And so Clinton doesn't seem to be getting the message. Today is the theme for the second day of the DNC. In addition to the big news that Bill Clinton is going to be speaking, today the theme is women and children and families. Now, this is a really interesting thing that we're seeing the Democratic Party try to do. The party is trying to frame the election as being about family. They've pointed to Donald Trump as being the worst kind of role model that your children could have. Think about the fact that the next president of the US for the next 4 or 8 years is going to be a role model for our children. Who would you prefer, Trump versus Hillary? Hillary, you know, being held up as this kind of role model for girls, especially to see the first woman president. And so they're going to trot out folks from the Children's Defense Fund, which Hillary Clinton was intimately involved in founding and has a long history in. And she's used her association with the Children's Defense Fund to tout her credentials on working for families. But of course, we know that her husband, Bill Clinton, oversaw the worst cuts, the harshest cuts to welfare reform during his presidency, which she backed as well. So there's a lot of sort of managing the message that's going to be happening today. And I think that this is going to be a big theme. So whether or not the Sanders folks buy that, whether or not there's going to be real party unity remains to be seen. I just saw earlier as I was walking here a bus that was labeled Infowars.com. This is Alex Jones, the sort of right-wing shock jock, his outlet that said Hillary for prison. And so some of the right-wing folks are here as well, hoping to take advantage of this disunity and infighting among Democrats. But I think this is a very interesting part of the political process. All in all, shaping up to be a historic Democratic National Convention. And on this second day, we're really excited to be bringing you this speaker lineup along with other tidbits from Free Speech TV. Look forward to the rest of the week. Thank you so much. I'm Sonali Kolhatkar reporting for Free Speech TV.